All right. Hold on. Gotta check. Because last time we were not live on LinkedIn. So let me double check. Okay. YouTube, we on. Double check LinkedIn. Oh, let me put my phone on. Do not disturb. See. And make sure I'm good. Hold on. Put on D&D. All right, we're good on YouTube. Are we good on LinkedIn? We're not good on LinkedIn. Might have to try it again. Hold on. Technical difficulties. Excuse technical difficulties, people on YouTube. Okay, let's refresh. It says we're streaming. Okay, hold on. Let's view it. It says, are we good? Are we good? On LinkedIn? Gotta double check. Says we're live. So I'm gonna take word for it and say that we are live. Okay. All right, let's go for it. Anyway, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to your Monday Mental Wellness Live Call. Today, we are talking about boundaries, but not just about boundaries, because here's the thing. A lot of people think or have the misconception that boundaries, you have to sacrifice those things if you really want to get to where you want to be in life. So, for example, I know a common saying for old folks is, do what you don't want to do, so later in life you're able to do what you want to do. You get what I'm saying? So this is really that nuanced conversation, because the thing about boundaries is, if you enforce healthy boundaries, if you truly have happy and healthy boundaries, and firm boundaries, where people can't cross them, then you actually will be able to have even better performance at your job. Like, you'll be able to focus more. You'll be able to have better relationships at work and outside of work, and your productivity will be able to decrease. I mean, not decrease, will be able to increase dramatically. But a lot of people think that boundaries is like this impossible thing that we aren't allowed to broach, or they have really trouble really identifying when is the right time to enforce a boundary and when is the time that I should really just take one for the team, right? And it's this whole nuanced conversation that we're gonna get into today. But first things first, I gotta really identify, what boundaries are really relevant to this conversation, because those of you who do know, like, there are at least, like, I want to say 5 or 6 different types of boundaries. So, we got physical boundaries, we got mental boundaries, we got emotional boundaries, we got sexual boundaries, we got time boundaries. We got different boundaries that have different rules. Like, for example, when I'm talking with one of my clients, one of the first things we talk about is physical boundaries, because that is your own personal safety bubble, that you don't need people to come in and just, like, touch your hair or just touch your shoulder. There's a 6 feet parameter for some of my clients who, like, don't do that. Don't do that. I don't Let me initiate. If I want to shake your hand. If I want to hug you, let me tell you that. Don't just come up and hug me. Don't just come up and, just pat me on the, don't do that. But aside from that, and when we're talking about, like, this world, because y'all know I'm, mental wellness trainer for high performance individuals. So we're talking about people that are in very demanding industries, of course: finance, education, healthcare, you name it, legal services, you name it. That's what we're talking about. But when we're talking about those specific industries and we're talking about this thing called boundaries, the first thing that you have to know about boundaries is that it has to benefit yourself. And I know that sounds selfish, but here's the thing. A lot of people think that boundaries is just about saying no. And it's not just about saying no, it's about saying yes to yourself. And that's where really people like a lot of people pleasers, let me say specifically, a lot of people pleasers, a lot of people who have gone above and beyond, the people that have become yes men or yes women, those are the people who really have trouble with that concept of really, should I say no? Am I can do it. I can push a little bit harder. I can go a little bit I can do a little bit more for this person, or just cuz you asked me to do it, I should say yeah. Like there is this whole mental block that is happening for people that are people pleasers when it comes to this boundary situation. And that's what we need to really address. But it starts with this saying no to others equals saying yes to yourself. Because if you can't say yes to yourself, your health is going to rapidly decline. Your focus is going to rapidly decline. The things that you got going on that are a priority for you are not going to be well. And so that is what we're talking about when it comes to enforcing those boundaries, because that is what is front and center. So let me ask you this, for those of y'all who just joined and have trouble with boundaries. If you don't have boundaries, what's going to suffer? Oh, yeah, I had to hit you right in the eye with that one. I'm sorry. If you don't have boundaries, how is your relationship with your spouse going to suffer? If you don't have boundaries, how's your relationship with your kids going to suffer? If you don't have boundaries, how is your health going to suffer? If you don't have boundaries, what are the things that are going to take a major hit if you don't start saying no to certain things? That's where this conversation starts when it comes to boundaries. And I know you listen, I know you're in a high stress field. I know you're in a very demanding field. But Cameron, I got to do 17 things and all this good stuff. Here's the thing. I get that. But if you don't force those boundaries to go in place, if you don't start saying no to these people or start saying, I'm going to deal with it at a later time. I'm not going to work through the weekend. I'm not going to work overtime. Tonight, I'm spending time with my wife. Tonight, I got to go to my kids' basketball game. Tonight, I'm going out. Tonight, I'm taking time for me. If you aren't able to do that for yourself, you're going to burn out and your health is going to be affected. Mental or physical health, by the way. That's what people don't realize when it comes about like having those boundaries in place. So let's talk about really how can we have healthy boundaries, because we don't want to say necessarily, I will say, we don't want to say no to every single thing. Sometimes you got to bring work home. I get it. I understand. Sometimes you got to do a little bit of work at home after the clock. Sometimes you got to do a little bit of time, right? But when is it pertinent to start really enforcing those boundaries for you? How do I integrate healthy boundaries and still be a top performer? How do I integrate healthy boundaries and still chase after the success that I'm striving for, or that the level of success, the level of excellence that my company, like the standard that we've set? How do I balance that without crashing and burning out, without my health being affected? Let's get into it. So first things first. I hinted at this earlier, but let's go into the type of boundaries we need to be set. So the first one I want you to really pay attention to, is your physical health boundaries. What does this mean, Cameron? Well, when I'm talking about your physical health boundaries, in particular, I'm talking about your eating, your sleeping, and overall physical health and well-being. Really making sure that you're doing the things that you need to do to make sure that you're in the great, stable place. I give you an example. It's homecoming season for those of y'all who went to college, or maybe you didn't go to college, maybe you went, maybe you didn't finish, so whatever that is, your business. So you might have had a great time. I mean, a great, phenomenal time at tailgate. Meeting a lot of people, drinking all the punch, eating all the chicken. Doing your big one, right? But here's the thing: if you've been doing it all day, your feet probably hurt. And I mean, your feet hurt. Like, you thought that those shoes you was gonna wear was like gonna be real cute, like they was gonna be like the bomb.com, but now your feet hurt, right? And here it is. We're back in the new week. Homecoming is behind us now, and your feet still hurt. So what is an example of a physical boundary in a physical health boundary in that regard is, look, like, for the next few days, you need to focus on recovery for your feet, not focus on standing and walking, doing all and working out. And you know what I'm saying? Sometimes you got to take care of yourself. And that's the thing about physical health boundaries, is that you have to look yourself in the mirror and say, what is it that you need? Cameron, what is it that you need according to your doctor's report, or according to how you're feeling? What are the things that you need in order to physically feel your best and be your best, right? And what do we have to say no to, or rather, what do we have to say yes to get closer to that? You know what I'm saying? So if you're saying, I want to be a healthier person, so what is it that maybe I can't say yes to? Maybe I can't say yes to going out to happy hour after work every Wednesday, because alcohol is gonna, it's gonna affect my liver. It's gonna affect my overall health and well-being. And even though, yes, I'm building rapport with the boss, I'm building rapport with my supervisors, for my health, for my physical well-being, that's not the best move. You get what I'm saying? Or let me not do that. Let me switch it. If I'm trying to get my fitness better, whether it's losing weight, gaining weight, whatever it is that you're trying to do, but you say, after work doesn't work for me, so I have to get up early in the morning. Well, you know what that means? You can't do work in your bed. You can't be typing emails, doing reports, doing all the work. You can't do that falling asleep. You feel me? Like, you have to have a cutoff time, and so that you can be able to get up in the morning and work on your fitness, and work on your meal prep, and work on the things that you need to for your physical well-being. That's how y'all see. I think it's finally starting to click. That's what y'all need to really focus on when it comes to this physical health boundary. What are the things that we need to say yes to, so that we can have the best form for our physical health? And like I said, in particular, for you guys who are high performers, you really got to focus on your sleep, your eating, and the other things that are unique to you. So if you work in a corporate office building, and there's like, you're in a cubicle where there's no windows, there's a high probability, like if you've been working there for a long time, there's a high probability your vitamin D is low. So guess what you got to do? That means every now and again, you need to go out, find a window, and just stand there for about 10 to 15 minutes. Or you need to take a vitamin D3 supplement. That's unique to you. That's a unique situation for your health and well-being. Because if you are lacking in vitamin D, then you're going to have a whole lot of different issues, not just in your immune system, but also your sleep schedule and your energy levels. It's going to be all bad. But if you have something unique to your health and well-being, you have to make sure that you put that front and center, and make sure that regardless of how much work I got to do, I got to put this first. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Now let's pivot to mental health boundaries. What does that mental health boundary mean? So the thing about mental health boundaries are, you have to, again, know what works best for you. What is it that you need? So if we're talking about, let's say, either, matter of fact, let's pivot for a second to from mental to emotional. A lot of people don't really know the difference, but let's talk about it. So when we're talking about emotional, think about your childhood. Think about how you were raised. Think about, different things that you need for you. Because when you become aware of that, and we talked about this on last week's live, when you become aware of what your big red buttons is, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go check it out on the YouTube. I believe it's, yeah, like I said, last Monday we talked about this really in depth. So when we're talking about emotional boundaries in corporate space, when you're learning what things tick you off, those are the things that we have to have boundaries on. So, for example, if you know that a certain coworker and you don't work well together, like that they're a type A personality and you're a type B personality, or they're a micromanager and they like to do this and that's not how you're effective, then you have to be able to say, hey, for the sake of this project, for the sake of this thing that we're working on, me and you can't work together. You got to do your thing over there and I got to do my thing over here. So that doesn't affect your success. Well, actually it does. It affects it for the better. But again, when it comes to your mental, when it comes to your emotional, you got to know what those things are. So for example, if you're a person who's a perfectionist, like your anxiety is triggered by things being the perfection, like being the best that they can be, you got to know that I need a lot of runway to be able to work it out, flush the nuts and bolts and do things like that. Don't put that pressure on you to be last minute. Don't put that pressure on you to do to do foolishness and allow yourself to stress out and spiral and have a panic attack with those type of things. So understanding yourself on the mental health side is going to help you to be able to enforce those boundaries. And if you haven't taken the time to do that, I encourage you to get with a therapist and become more self-aware. Maybe even read books, maybe even listen to podcasts, whatever your journey is. But mental health and well-being starts with learning more about yourself. And what you learn more about yourself, what you need, that's when you're going to start to enforce boundaries. That's when you're going to start to say, hey, like this is an issue for me. And I have to take a step back, or I need to change this. I need to figure out how this is going to help my workflow by doing this, so that you're able to articulate and speak up in the area of your mental health boundaries at work. Because if you're not doing that, it's going to affect you. It's going to affect your work. It's going to affect how you interact with your coworkers. It's going to affect how you interact with your supervisors, your managers. It's going to affect how you deal with your customers, whatever field you're in. If that is not right, and people keep hitting your big red button, that's going to get in the way. So you have to have boundaries to be able to protect yourself in the midst of that. Okay? Now, the last boundary that we're going to talk about in particular, and we've already kind of been alluding to it, but now we're going to go really in depth in it, is your time boundaries. Now, many of us have like a standard 7 to 8, 9-ish hour shift, whether it's 11 to 6 or 9 to 5 or whatever that is that your particular schedule requires. Here's the thing that we have to be able to figure out when it comes to our time boundaries is minimizing the amount of work that we do off the clock, especially those of you who have salary. Because if you have salary, that means you don't get paid overtime. I tell my wife this all the time. Look, you don't get paid overtime. So at a certain point, this work, I get that it needs to be done, But for your own physical well-being, for your own mental well-being, it needs to cut. And that's foundational when it comes to the time boundaries. So how can we be able to make that and still be, again, successful? Well, that starts to my next point. Really learning how to manage your time when you're on the clock. And am I saying that we're all procrastinators? Am I saying that we all don't know how to manage your time? Am I saying that I ain't saying that. What I am saying is you have to have a plan, especially if you are in like upper management or if you are in charge of your schedule in any way. When you walk in to work, like take the time to say, okay, this week is the week of this, and this. Write it down, say, okay, these are the things that I want to be able to get done this particular week. So how can I attack these? Let me try to get these two things done on Monday, and then let me try to knock out these other things on Tuesday. And if I haven't finished those, let me push something to Wednesday. You get what I'm saying? So when it comes to the deadlines, again, properly managing your time so that it doesn't overwhelm you at the end because you've been avoiding, because you've been procrastinating, because you've been putting things off. Really taking a beat at maybe at the beginning of your week, whether your week starts in like a midweek, like on Wednesday, or if it starts on a Sunday, whenever that is work for you. I want you to start to think about your time and how much time are you spending outside of work that you could be really taking care of while you're on the clock. Because that's where people get messed up. People think that, oh, okay, I have to get done, or my boss is getting on me. Like, look, like, don't be afraid of your boss. Your boss is a human. If it is some, let me say something that's going to release you. If it is something that will not immediately put your job in jeopardy, it can wait. If it's not something that will imminently affect your employment or the employment of other people, it can wait till tomorrow. That's the reality. Because you are a human being who has stuff going on in your life. You're a human being who has responsibilities outside of the workspace. In order for you to be your best, you have to have that adequate time to do those things. You can't be all work and no play. You can't be all work and not have the opportunity to plug into yourself. The things that make you you. You get what I'm saying? Like, there are many, many people out there who are going on vacations, who are traveling the world, but they have their laptop at their hip because they still got to do a little bit of work. They still got to do a little bit of this. And they're not able to fully like unplug from work and really fully plug into this. They got one foot in the vacation and one foot at work. Come on, what kind of vacation is that? What kind of life is that, guys? And that's where these boundaries, we have to have these boundaries so that we can start saying yes to ourselves. So we can start doing what we need for our own self. And when it comes to our time boundaries, really, I want you to really think about, okay, what are those things that I can do at work? Can I delegate? I know that's probably a cuss word for some of y'all. What can I delegate? What is the 1, 2, 3 things that I can trust? That's another cuss word for some of y'all. That I can trust to another person to get done. So that I don't have to do all 10 of these things. I can go from 10 to 7. Or from 7 to 3. What are 2 people that I can push this on, not push it on, that I can trust this on so that we can be able to get this done efficiently and that I'm not crashing and burning out. So that I can be healthy, so that I can be whole, so I can be, the best version of myself that I need to be to execute at a high level. That's where boundaries come in. Oh yeah, so sometimes you gotta bend a little bit to get what you really want, right? And that's the thing that we really got to, again, the core thing about boundaries is saying yes to yourself. And that's what it's all about. That's what needs to be your motivation. That's what needs to be your focus when it comes to implementing your boundaries. Because I want you to be successful. I want you to get the bag. I want you to achieve everything that you can achieve. But if it's a physical issue, like if your physical health is not doing well, you got to enforce the boundaries to make yourself healthier. If it's a mental health issue, like you're not able to focus, you're having panic attacks, you're slipping into depression because you got an overload of work, or you got people who can't motivate you, like you got to be able to enforce that boundaries to get yourself right. If your time is all over the place, you don't have enough time, or you're feeling guilty because you're spending too much time at work and not enough time. Come on, guys. These boundaries, even though it may feel like if you enforce them, they're going to get in the way of your success. They're going to get in the way of your elevation. They're going to get in the way of you making your dream. It's going to feel like it's hindering your dreams or hindering your progress. But I promise you, if you start implementing your boundaries, it actually will propel you towards them. Now you got to do it right. Got to do it right. Like I said, there are some things you got to say, okay, let me send this one thing and then I'm cutting it. You know what I'm saying? So there are flexible boundaries that we can take. Some of y'all need firm boundaries, like closed, nothing gets through. Some of y'all do. But you can flex. You can be flexible a little bit with the boundaries, and that's okay. All right. So I need everyone to really tap in with your boundaries, especially as we go into the end of the year. It's important for us to really make sure that this last quarter, because here's the thing, this last quarter is going to set us up for the next year as we head into 2025. And if we are not careful, it will hold us back at the start of 2025. So we got to get that together. Okay? All right, guys, so that is it. Man, well, for everybody that's on LinkedIn, I'm sorry, for whatever reason, Restream is not working properly to be able to connect. And I'm going to have to fix that later. So for those of y'all who are just joining in, go ahead and catch the replay unless you got some questions. What's up, Cuzzo? My Cuzzo just joined the TikTok live. I don't know who's on my YouTube live. But if y'all ain't got no questions, comments, concerned about boundaries, I'm gonna go ahead and cut it here and let y'all enjoy the rest of y'all Monday evening. All right, guys. Peace.